Breaking news right now, the jury in the trial of Daniel Penny say they are unable to come to a unanimous verdict. You'll remember Penny was charged with manslaughter in the subway chokehold death of Jordan Neely in New York City on a subway car. Neely was acting erratically on the subway when Penny put him in a chokehold that eventually led to his death. This was the car it happened on. You just saw Daniel Penny there in court. I was there yesterday. Aaron Katersky is there today. To just give you a little background of where we are, this is day 4 of deliberation. And the note we just got from our producer in the court says that the first note of the day, yesterday, the jury wanted to see a couple of the bystander videos, and they wanted the definition of reckless and negligent. That was what they spent yesterday deliberating. Today, the first note of the day, because they started around 10 o'clock, I believe, today, they said they were unable to come to a unanimous vote on count 1. So the jury requests, this is the jury's words, instructions from the judge at this time: we are unable to come to a unanimous vote on count 1. That is the second-degree manslaughter charge. That's the top count that comes with it, up to 14 years. But there is a second count, and that is criminally negligent homicide. I want to bring in Brian Buckmeyer right now for some legal analysis on this. Brian, we look at a situation like this, and we ask you to read the tea leaves, obviously. It had been 18 hours by the time I left court yesterday of deliberation, so there was some thought that maybe the jury was heading toward the second count or acquittal. Now we know that they cannot come to a unanimous agreement on the first count. What does that mean? Where do we head from there? Do they have to come to a unanimous vote on the first count in order to even talk about the second count?
Yeah, so not really. So let's just talk about the difference between the counts here. You have manslaughter in the second degree and criminal negligent homicide. They both have elements of causing the death of another individual. The major aspect that now we're looking at and asking the question is was the person reckless or was the person negligent? Those are two very different standards. And I think some of our viewers might have heard me in the past say with Diane, the major difference between reckless and negligent is whether or not you understand the danger. I give kind of like the colloquial way of saying when my son and I, for example, are jumping on a bed and my wife comes in, I'm being reckless because I understand the dangers of jumping on a bed and I disregard it. My son, 2 years old, he doesn't understand the dangers of it, but he's still not conforming his actions. The difficulty for me when I'm looking at this kind of case is it's kind of all or nothing. You either think a person who is putting someone in a chokehold is reckless and negligent, or you think they're not. To me, this reads as kind of like a quote-unquote King Solomon decision where someone in the jury is saying, you know what, I want to split the baby. I don't want to give him the top count. I want to give him the less count because I think that's fair.
So, Brian, the verdict form asked the jury to decide on the first count, second-degree manslaughter, before potentially moving on to the second count. What we're told from inside the courtroom is that the judge has proposed giving the jury an Allen charge. You could tell us a little bit more about that, encouraging them to continue deliberating despite the deadlock. He's giving the lawyers now time to discuss that. What do you think happens?
So an Allen charge is what we give in the state of New York to a jury who has informed us, the defense attorneys, prosecutors, and the court, that they've gone to an impasse, that they can't keep going forward. And it's kind of like the way of saying, hey, can you just do it one more time, please? Can you go back just and try again? Because if the jury comes back again after an Allen charge, it will all but make it a hung jury or a mistrial because they're deadlocked. Now, I think what's very important here, though, is the language in which the jury has come forward with in this case. They say that they are deadlocked as it pertains to the top charge or the first charge, that manslaughter in the second degree. That suggests to me, at least, that they have come to a decision as to the second charge, the criminal negligent homicide. And as you've explained, the manslaughter in the second degree is what we call a C-class violent felony. It's punishable by 15 to 3.5 years, while the negligent homicide, a max of 5 years.
And Brian, just quickly, we have to go, but if it's a hung jury, do you think they try him again?
Well, it's the question of do they retry him on the manslaughter, because it seems like the criminal negligent homicide they've decided already. I don't think that the DA will retry this case just because of the polarization. If he's convicted on the lower charge, I think they may stick with that overall and just move on.
All right, Brian, thanks for the analysis. As always, really important.